Okay, this is addressed to all of those protesters out there, and I'm pretty sure I'm going to be going down and joining my own city's version of Occupy Wall Street here in the next day or two, and hopefully I'll be able to talk about this live to some people that are in the trenches. But I wanted to make this video because I think it's really important. It seems to be a point of conjecture, conflict, trying to develop a lucid set of demands or goals among the protest movement. And after reading and studying and devouring information for over 2 decades now, I have a suggestion. Tell the bankers to fuck off and don't pay your debts. Tell the bankers to fuck off and don't pay your debts. Nobody, not the government, not private debtors, mortgages, car loans, credit cards, student loans, don't pay the debts. That will collapse the system. End the practice of fractional reserve banking. In Modern Money Mechanics, which was written in, I think it was in the 30s by the Federal Reserve itself, they admit that banks create new money when they create loans. That means that all money is debt. That means that these debts that are collapsing our economy every couple of decades for the last however many hundreds of years, even when we had the gold standard, we still had debt collapses because banks were still creating paper money using a gold reserve in the back. And all of a sudden, you know, like in the Great Depression, what happened? During the 20s, a bunch of stockbrokers were able to get all this cheap money from the Federal Reserve and from the New York banks, and they were loaning this money to investors. And then all of a sudden one day the bankers wake up and say, wait a minute, there's too many debts and we don't think everybody's going to pay. So what did they do? They called in all the loans. The stock market crashed, and instead of just letting the banks take their losses like the government should have, FDR stepped in, tried to save the banks, and we got stuck in a depression that lasted over a decade. And it's happening again right now. And all this new money that they're creating is just adding to the debt, because all money is debt. So if you want to have a single, simple, coherent demand that everybody can wrap their head around, debt repudiation. Refuse to pay the debts. The bankers created the money they loaned you in the first place. So why should we let them create money out of nothing and then collapse our economy and destroy our standards of living over and over again? Not just once, but there's countless examples dating back hundreds of years where they've done this. And yet the one thing that the people never demand is that banks have the actual money in the vault when they loan it to you. Thomas Edison, I'm pretty sure I read it, I don't know, it was on the internet, so maybe it's bullshit, but I read that Thomas Edison once said, if the government can create a bond, it can create a dollar bill. Well, in our current system, what the government does is print bonds and then hands these bonds over to the Fed and the banking system as collateral for money that then the banks loan the government back and charge them interest for it. It's a ridiculous system. Why would they do that? Why? Because the men who own the banks are the ones in control of the government. You want to fuck those guys? Stop paying the debts. Just refuse to acknowledge it anymore. We're not paying anymore. Greece, get on the streets of Athens and insist that your government tell Goldman Sachs to fuck off. Don't pay the debts. Portugal, Spain, the whole world just needs to turn to the banks and give them a big fuck you and don't pay them any of this money back and let them crash. That seems to me to be a very clear, simple goal, a demand that we could all get around. Democrat, Republican, Socialist, Capitalist, none of these isms are even relevant as long as the money is based on debt created by a private banking system. Capitalism has never existed in the world because banks create the money. Socialism has always failed because banks create the money. And it's proven over and over and over again that the people can only absorb so much debt before the economy collapses. And by giving the banks the power to do this, what happens when the economy collapses? Then the banks repossess all of your real property because they can't recover the fake money that they created to loan you. It's ridiculous. Come on, people. Just tell them to fuck off. No more. I'm not paying another house payment. I'm not paying another car payment, and I'm not going to give my government another penny in tax revenue until they repudiate the debts to the banks. That's how to teach them the lesson. That's how to remove them from power. And going forward, here's what will happen. There will still be a credit mechanism in a legitimately free economy, but the money that you'll borrow will be at real interest rates set by real demand for credit, and it will be money that's actually sitting in a vault somewhere gathering dust. It won't be fake money pumped and pumped and pumped into the system where the wizards of Wall Street can manipulate the economy and expand it and contract it based on their ability to create free money. Repudiate the debt, America. Just tell them to fuck off. That's the only answer.